Welcome. I have my co-hosts today, Carlos Ponces from Mexico City and Kim Lantis from Hermosillo, Mexico. And I'm Tulio Siragusa here in Los Angeles, California, staying at home and with a self-made haircut, guys. I went a little too short, but hey,
I will never hire you for that.
you can't be too picky these days. With what's going on? It was worse. It looked like Beetlejuice last week, so I'm sure I'm not the only one who's struggling with that. So we're recapping last week's Dojo Live.
It's hidden under your headset. It's okay.
I know I can't see it. We had Stephen Haken and Adam Evans. They were the co-founders of AirKit, and we were talking about delivering customer experiences amidst COVID-19. So a couple of things that came out of that. What came out for you guys? I was impressed with this idea of being able to map out customer journeys, for example, and develop new experiences where you don't have to be a developer. Like they actually created this low-code platform that enables anyone who's got some smarts or capabilities in terms of marketing or using tools to essentially create models. I thought that was interesting. What came up for you guys during that show?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing that struck me or that pulled my attention was an expression that I haven't really heard. I mean, formally expressed by a CTO, which is a low-code platform for customer-obsessed teams, right? So that was like one of the phrases that pulled my attention because I was trying to figure out what customer obsession would look like in teams, and that of course might translate as an acute eye for detail or an extreme care in the way things are done. I don't know. It conjures many images, but still, the way that he coined the phrase, that's even an entire marketing genius, from the way I see it. It's low-code platform for customer-obsessed teams, and also the fact that it's all about. You don't have to, like as you said, Tulio. You don't have to be like a developer or an engineer to actually create something, right? So that would apply for me because I'm not an engineer, as you know. So I thought this was very similar to Wix, or like you have a number of options to create something. You have Dreamweaver on one end, which requires skills, very deeper skills, and also you have Wix for the non-experts. So I think it's a very convenient and a very interesting approach to coding, to creating something. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think what was interesting is the trend towards self-service is not a new trend. It's been going on for almost 2 decades now. Everyone's been talking about it. The wonderful thing about self-service is that it's always consistent, right? It's always good because you're the one who's leading it and managing it yourself. We've seen even in website development with WordPress and managed WordPress, and as you mentioned, even with managed sites like Wix, they've made it so anyone can create a website, right? They've taken away the mystery behind needing to develop a digital presence. But when it comes to building interaction with customers or coming up with journey maps or enhancing the way perhaps you respond to a customer intake coming in, whether it's especially now with everything moving online, right? If you're a bank, you don't have a branch that's open now. People still need service. People still have questions, right? So how do you do that? How do you create a model that's intuitive, that provides a better experience, possibly even a better experience than they would have had having to go into a branch? So it's going beyond just taking care of the fire, if you will, that's raging. We have to find a way to serve our clients, and going beyond that is say, how do we improve the experience that these clients have with us? And I found it encouraging that in the same way that some of these other technologies have enabled just end users, marketers to develop tools and develop digital presence, you could do the same thing when it comes to customer experience. And I think that's incredibly powerful, especially with all our companies that are lagging behind in their digital transformation and are now sort of caught off guard with what's going on and are trying to play catch up. So I was encouraged to hear that they can enable a company that's trying to play catch up to actually catch up in a matter of days instead of weeks or months.
Right. I think it was interesting. There's a couple things for me. I think first of all, I think the how in sync, I guess, Stephen and Adam were. I really enjoyed their dynamic. I think as teammates, as co-founders, um, from the human side, and I think the communication side, that was very enjoyable to me. I also found it enjoyable that they, as a company, AirKit, I think it's very timely, maybe even a bit ahead of his time. I think I'm not sure which one of them, but somebody quoted Warren Buffett, and they said, "When the tide goes out, you see who was swimming naked," or in other terms, right, caught with your pants down. uh, and so right now, with what's happened,
but that's the appropriate.
Right? Yeah. But I think it's timely in this idea of what's happening in the world right now. Nobody's expected this. And I think the key point was this idea of encouraging companies and finding a solution for companies to deploy faster with less. And they had a couple really good tips there. This idea of just trying to move as fast as you could, even, using what's already on a smartphone rather than developing a whole new app, kind of figure out exactly that. I thought that it was also nice how they talked about what to prioritize, right? The key here is prioritize what you can digitize. And in their focus, this idea of the customer experience, what does that mean? They said, look at the data, right? What are the top reasons that your customers or your clients are already contacting your contact centers, and digitize those elements first. Also, a thing to keep in mind, I think it's very important that they mentioned, is this idea of how to keep your customer information secure, right? As contact centers and things are becoming working from home elements rather than working from the office, how can we maintain PCI compliance and things like that? So it seems like they have some skills and some insight that could be really helpful for other companies out there. But more than anything, I think to me, it was just refreshing to this voice of, you know what, it's a time for developing new skills. It's a time to embrace change. And I think that's not going away anytime soon. So it was a good chat.
Yeah, I liked this idea of encouraging or discouraging the mindset of, we, in order for us to engage with our customers, we have to develop apps, right? That's kind of the direction a lot of companies have gone toward. We've got to take it all into our own little garden and manage those relationships, and that's how we get the data, and that's how we get insights on how they use the services or products we're offering. And that was true to a certain extent when it first started, but the technology today is such that you can natively have the same capability right on your browser, on your mobile browser. So I was encouraged to this idea that they planted, that, look, if you're trying to develop digital experiences, customer experience for your customers, doesn't have to be a year-long drawn-out process. It doesn't even have to be 6 months. It could be deployed in a matter of days. And you can rethink how you do it. Instead of trying to come up with, an app, you could do it natively in the browsers. Everything is so much more advanced today. So I thought that was encouraging, and I love their culture as well, the culture that they've developed in the company. What stood out for you there, Carlos?
I think they have, in terms of the culture or internally, I think that what stood out for me was they trust each other tremendously. I mean, it was very obvious that they would place their hands on the fire, for one another. So they're very in sync. They're very I don't know how to say this, but that's what they conveyed. At least it's like, if I ever were to come up with some kind of product like these guys are doing, would I want to mimic, their connection, the way they read each other's minds? It's like, for example, when Adam said, "I'll get this," so he already knew exactly what moment he should be stepping into to answer a question. So they're very in sync. I like that. That's something that a lot of companies out there should mimic, and that's what stood out for me. And I really envy, the types of circumstances whenever it comes to teamwork.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they've worked in the past. They had spent many years together before they built this company. So there's definitely value in building your core team, the folks that you do things with, because it does compound time. You can just get things done faster because you're more in sync. That's something I've heard from a lot of entrepreneurs who just kind of stick together with the same teams. And similarly, even in the entertainment business, if you haven't noticed, you'll see in certain movie productions, it's the same people working together because they just can get things done faster because of that sort of synchronization that happens. Yeah, I love this idea of trust. I recently read an article from the Harvard Business Review. It came out last week, and they were talking about how a lot of companies are beginning to realize that a key thing to working remote is trust. Having trust in people and having trust in each other. That's like a key component for that to work. And it just reminds me of like, well, we've known that for over 13 years. I mean, that it's what people who are adults do. They trust each other and work like adults. So I found it encouraging that this whole COVID-19 situation, forcing people working from home, is either catching some companies with their pants down, where they're realizing, wow, we don't really trust our employees, and now we have all these rigors and controls that don't really work when you work remote. And some companies are realizing, wow, we need to increase the level of trust that we have with our employees in order for this to be effective. And hopefully the latter will be the one that wins out of this whole mess.
Yeah, and I do remember Stephen and Adam both even acknowledging the fact that they were a pretty harmonic team when they were working in the same place in an office. But then suddenly they realized that they're all working remote, and they themselves are discovering that they can work very seamlessly. And that was also something that I think that a lot of companies out there should be assessing is, how much are you going to trust your teams to be able to work, to have everyone work remotely if needed? Or maybe in the future, are we seeing the birth of new business model altogether? So we never know, right?
Exactly. It's the expectation. I think again, I don't know which one of the two talked about this, but they did talk about this idea that the consumer expectation will permanently change as a result of what we're going through right now. But the employee expectation is also going to permanently change, right?
Oh yeah.
As a result of what we're experiencing. So both really important things to keep in mind.
We'll see what happens. All right, guys, thanks for joining. Went a little over today. Thanks for joining us. And Carlos, we got another show coming up tomorrow, right? Who's up tomorrow?
Tomorrow, correct. Let me just grab my eyes because I don't have them on.
1 p.m. Pacific, while Carlo looks that up. Tomorrow, Tuesday.
Tomorrow, we're going to be speaking with Sergey Berizzi, the CTO of PandaDoc. And we're going to be speaking about the founder's guide to hiring for leadership positions in a growing startup. So that's going to be tomorrow, right here on Dojo Live at 1 p.m. Pacific.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you, everyone.